there, BookTube. Well, time for a June TBR, or pile of possibilities, as people call it these days. No, this is meant to be a to be read. Now, I was thinking to myself, why do I do TBR videos? You know, and they're not that interesting, possibly for other people. I don't know. And I think there's three reasons, and they range from the most selfish to the most kind of community centered, as it were. At the most selfish end, it's a way of focusing my plans for the month ahead, and I enjoy that. At the most community sort of oriented end, for the BookTube community, it's a way of mentioning readathons and group reads and read-alongs and kind of booktubey events that I want to share and maybe encourage other people to take part in if they like. And somewhere between those two, the sort of in the sort of halfway point between selfish and community, there's something about it being lovely to know if the things I'm going to read or plan to read in the month ahead are things that other people have read or want to read and might like to talk about or read at the same time, or you know, it's a community thing, isn't it, BookTube? And you know, that's the fun. So what's coming up in June? Well, the first readathon that I want to talk about is Ancientsathon. This is its second year. The hosts are Jennifer Brooks, Tori of Hufflepuff Discovery, and David Wiley. And it's all about reading books from before 1700. So not all ancient, but, you know, that whole period from the very oldest things right sort of up to, you know, Shakespeare, Don Quixote, you know, the sort of all the joys of the 17th century. So it's a way of I don't know, encouraging us to go that bit further back, I suppose, and what riches there are there to read. Last year it got me to read Gilgamesh finally, which I'd meant to for so long, and that was just a joy. This year I'm going to use it for as a prompt to get me to start the Canterbury Tales. Now, AJ Dunn takes some responsibility for this because of the Canterbury Tales tag. And when I was doing that, I thought to myself, it's an outrage that I've only read, you know, a couple of Canterbury Tales. You know, I really ought to read the lot. So that's what I'm going to do. But this is going to be a long, slow read. I'm going to read one a month of sort of starting with the general prologue and then working through the tales one by one. And I think one a month will work out nicely, particularly because I really want to read them in the original medieval English, you know, Chaucer's own words, as it were. Although I do have a handy Penguin Classics sort of modern language version to help me along. So I'll put the two together and work my way through. And I really enjoyed these sort of long, slow reads of things that might otherwise be a bit challenging. I'm getting towards the end of The Divine Comedy, which I've been reading along with Tom of Tom L.A. Books. I'm also well on my way through Shakespeare's sonnets in company with Two Tight-Lautrec. There's one of their sort of seasons of sonnets is running at the moment, so not too late to catch it. And we'll be about 2/3 of the way through by the time this season ends, I think. So yeah, that's going to be good. And thank you, Ancientsathon, for giving me the extra nudge. I will also make sure I read, I think, well, a play and some poetry. Well, obviously the Divine Comedy and Shakespeare cover the poetry, but for the play, I'm in two minds still as to whether to read the Bacchae by Euripides, which is a classical Greek play that I've never read, or to revisit Sophocles' Theban plays, specifically Oedipus Tyrannus, Oedipus the King, often somewhat inaccurately called Oedipus Rex, you know, which is Latin. And then it goes Oedipus Colonus and Antigone. And yeah, still making my mind up about that. So that is Ancientsathon. Now, another splendid event this month is Caribathon. Now, the hosts for Caribathon are lovely Karen of Run Right Reads and Peter of Cozy Comfy Up. And Caribathon is about getting us to read books, obviously, by authors from the Caribbean. And this is going to be my firm reason for reading One Sky Day by Leone Ross, which has been recommended so enthusiastically by lots of people on BookTube. So I'm really looking forward to that. And if I can fit in a couple of others, I will. Depends on what else happens in the month. I've got a couple of group reads that I'm involved in this month, and one of those is Faulkner in August. It's not August, you say? No, indeed it's not. But this year we're actually doing a summer of Snopes. It's called. We're doing the Snopes trilogy by William Faulkner in June, July, and August. And in June it's the Hamlet. And if you're at all interested in reading a bit of William Faulkner with a really supportive group on Voxer that will, carry you through and give you lots to think about and lots of ideas and good, usually lots of good humour as well, then put a message in the comments and you could join the Voxer group for that. I'm one of the hosts. A kind of little group read I'm doing with with sort of 3 other booktubers that I know, as it were, booktube, is Another Country by James Baldwin, and I'm reading that with Mark Nash, Courtney Ferreter, and Sina of Beating Around the Books, and that is something we've planned for a while because it's a book we've all been sort of meaning to read, and I haven't read enough by James Baldwin, but it also fits very nicely, of course, with it being Pride Month in June. And lots of people are planning their sort of nice, interesting reading for Pride Month. As well as the James Baldwin, I will certainly be reading the choice for the LGBTQ in Translation book group, which is kind of organised by Jen the librarian. I'll put the details below so you can connect to that if you want. The chosen book, which we voted on for June, July, is Not Before Sundown, or by Johanna Sinisalo, also known as Troll, a Love Story, depending on which side of the Atlantic you are, I think. Now, this it's a book about a troll, someone who finds a troll and brings it home, and which has an interesting impact on his life. It's not a children's book about a troll. It is very definitely an adult book about a troll. I'm really looking forward to it. Another thing I'm going to read for Pride is some poetry. It's always good to get a bit of poetry in, isn't it? And although I've got some longer things going on, I wanted a nice June poetry collection. And this is Andrew McMillan's Pandemonium. I would say Andrew McMillan's probably one of England's sort of leading gay poets at the moment. I read his book Physical, collection Physical from 2015, which is very good. I'm looking forward to this one. That's probably all my Pride reading. We'll see. I've got 2 books that I'm going to read in June that are rollovers from May, where I sort of slightly over planned what I might be able to fit in for things, and one of those was the second of my 2 Springathon choices. So I read one, but the second one was Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, about fungi, and I've started that, but I can see I'm definitely not going to finish it in May, so it's going to become part of my June TBR. The other thing that I know I'm not going to get to before the month ends is Reading the Ceiling, which is by a Gambian author, and Dayo Forster, and that's my sort of book by an author from a country that's new to me, and looking forward to that one. I think it's from 2005. Yeah, and she's an interesting woman. She does a lot of things other than writing novels, but I'll talk about that after I've read it. So that's going to keep me pretty busy, isn't it? But I need a graphic novel, and I've picked one because I'm trying to read at least one every month. Well, graphic novel or non-fiction, and this actually is non-fiction because it's autobiography or memoir. The Arab of the Future by Riad Sattouf. Now, when I said I was going to sort of do a year of reading more graphic fiction and non-fiction, this was one that was suggested to me, and because I'd said I liked Persepolis, and yeah, A Childhood in the Middle East, 1978 to 1984. I could tell it's going to be interesting, isn't it? It's also yeah, very sort of bold graphic style. We shall see. Now, I like to read a new release each month if I can fit that in. And towards the end of the month, I've got another sort of buddy read coming up, and that's I'm reading with Katja Read Write Create. Oh, I was getting that slightly wrong. I'll put it in the show notes. And this is a book that's actually coming out on the 23rd of June, but I can pre-order it to be ready to roll. And it's called, I'll see if I can get this right, I Want to Die But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. It's a Korean bestseller by Baek Se-hee, or Baek Se-hee, and I wonder if I will enjoy it, because when I read about it, it says it's sort of somewhere between memoir and self-help, but comes highly recommended. So and I'm sure with Katja I shall enjoy it. So that's my plans. Quite a lot, but not as much as I'd often put in a TBR, but there's a reason for that, and that is because I'm waiting to see if I'm going to be a BookTube prize for translated fiction again in June and July, in which case I need to leave a space for 2 or 3 of those books in June. So that's my plans. Any that strike a chord for you? I don't know. Tell me if they do, and any that you think, oh yes, you must definitely read that, or oh no, that's a mistake, Ros, don't go for that one. I would love to hear, and your plans too.